Eagle 6 in the track.
Roger.
Viper 1 bombs away. 1's going to climb high above 20. You're south.
Eagle 6 radar contact. Eagle 6 is visual.
And it goes left.
Hello, welcome back to the DCS SITREP, where we talk about the world's premier combat flight simulator for the home PC. Right now, it is DCS World. It's brought to us by Eagle Dynamics. And once again, I'm your host, Prickly Hedgehog. Let's dip into the newsletter straight away, which features really exciting news about an old aircraft that needed some love, and it's getting some. It's the new and free Su-25A Frogfoot, which right now is a low-fidelity aircraft in the game, but it looks like it's going to, as I said before, get some love, get some attention, and let's take a little look at what ED is saying. So the Frogfoot, which is the NATO designation, Grok, I think in the Russian vernacular, it's been the backbone of Soviet and later Russian close air support aviation for decades. Remember that close aviation support was something that the Russians really did pioneer in World War II. They were sort of the masters of that, and had dedicated aircraft for that particular purpose, similar to, I guess, the Stukas, which, I forget the name of the pilot that they consulted, the German pilot that the Americans consulted in development of the A-10C2, but a lot of the lessons learned in World War II carried over into later aircraft design and features. Now, the aircraft's mission effectiveness, survivability, and ease of operation make the Frogfoot a remarkable aircraft. It's armed with laser-guided missiles and rockets, bombs, canister munitions, unguided rockets and cannons, and it packs a powerful punch to this day, as hinted. So remember, it was developed back in the late 60s initially as a need continued for this type of operation to support Russian ground troops. Something that the Americans learned, I guess, a little bit later or around about the same time. There was a push for something that could do close air support. That role for the Americans was the Skyraider, but there were some limitations of the effectiveness of the Skyraider, certainly being a piston engine aircraft, and a lot of the lessons learned from Vietnam were poured into the A-10C. So there's a lot of similarities between the Frogfoot and the Warthog. The aircraft first flew back in 1975, so we're kind of celebrating, I guess, 50 years of its operation. Not a huge change, really, in development between the early examples and the ones that were basically blooded particularly in Afghanistan, but in other theaters of combat as well. As I said before, it has some similarities to the A-10. A lot of redundancies, some heavy use of titanium armor, so it features, once again, a titanium bathtub around the pilot. Pilot does sit pretty low compared to the A-10C2, which I generally think has better visibility. The pilot in the Frogfoot, as I said, is sitting pretty low to benefit from that armor reinforcement, which I believe can take up to 23mm cannon shells, but therefore your visibility behind isn't great. So some slight differences there in that concept. Nonetheless, it carries a lot of armament, up to about 8,000 pounds of munitions. It's very maneuverable and a little bit faster than the A-10, so you can get from A to B a lot more quickly, but of course you can't refuel midair, so it doesn't have the legs, if you like, of the A-10, and certainly any iterations that we have in game right now. So I'm really looking forward to an update to this aircraft. I jumped into it the other night just to see what it still looked like, and yes, it is definitely in need of an update. And so what ED has described here is that they have completely recreated the Frogfoot, which will soon be introduced as a new free aircraft to DCS, which I think is fantastic. Fills a niche that is an important one, and I think offers a lot of replayability in the game, cast type work. And so this Su-25 will feature a highly detailed and accurate external model and a cockpit that embodies the highest graphical standards that we're seeing in the game right now. So again, when I jumped into it last night, and hopefully you've seen some of the images, definitely needs an upgrade. So based on the Flaming Cliff series, the aircraft operations for it will be tailored towards ease of use, aiming to establish bindings and modes of operation. So it's going to be not the full fidelity. We're not getting a full fidelity aircraft just yet. That is definitely something I hope ED is capable of doing in the nearer future rather than the later future. A lot of people have asked for more Red 4 aircraft. Disappointingly, we have heard from Razbam that they have abandon the MiG-23. We're not going to see that anytime soon unless another third-party developer decides, yeah, sure, we'll do that. Thanks, Revamps. We'll pick up from whatever you were doing. Sadly, it's very disappointing news there. The new Su-25, the team go on to say, will share the same exact flight dynamics as its predecessor, accurate performance, enhanced damage modeling, and new liveries. As is the case with the Su-25T, the TF-51D, the Su-25 will be a free offering for players to enjoy DCS, improving the choices for high-fidelity red aircraft alongside the full-fidelity DCS MiG-29A Fulcrum, currently in development and planned to come on sale soon. So overall, this is a very, very promising and much needed aircraft, I think, to, again, add a little bit more playability for Red 4 aircraft. It does fulfill a very exciting and rinse and repeat type operations. You're up close and in the thick of it when you're doing CAS of this nature, but especially when you consider Russian doctrine. And I think it's also going to be an important one that niches, if you like, or slots into potential work with the dynamic campaign. Again, I'd love to see even more fidelity, but I'm curious to see what we get with it. Certainly, if anything upswept from what we currently have is going to be a bonus. Fun little aircraft. Is one of those aircraft that I started playing around with when I first got into DCS after spending quite a bit of time in the Su-27, just playing around really, and wasn't willing at that point to really embark on the full fidelity modules that were available at the time. And I think if you're a person that doesn't have a lot of time and doesn't want to learn all of the complexity of some of these more detailed modules, such as the A10C2, the F-16, F-18, etc., then this is a nice compromise. You can still get a lot of replayability, a lot of fun with the aircraft. Obviously not breaking the bank because it's free, but you get all the fun and game with it that those other modules offer, but with a much lower learning curve and still just as much fun. Maybe not perhaps as satisfying as conquering some of the complexity of the full fidelity modules, but nonetheless, a lot of replayability. Speaking of the MiG-23 and what we can expect in the future, I just don't see yet, unfortunately, other full-fidelity aircraft outside of the MiG-29A in the immediate horizon. Things like the Su-27 would be great. That aircraft is considered among some circles pretty outdated by today's standard. That would be the next thing I'd love to see gobbled up into the DCS ecosystem as more of a full fidelity. Whether or not that's possible, of course, is hard to know and doesn't seem feasible at this juncture. That also means things like the Su-33 and certainly the Su-34 are out of play. Whether or not we see more variants of the MiG-29 is also a guess at this time. But anything that embellishes, enhances, fleshes out a little bit the Red 4 stable has got to be good news for the community in general. And like I said, I think there's something really appealing about this aircraft. One, because of that replayability factor. There's a lot of work to be done in a microcosm of a battlefield where you can be conducting operations on a limited scale that give you a lot of rinse and repeat because you are so close at a forward air operating base of some kind. You're close to the front line. You drop your bombs, complete your mission, you return, and then you're loading up again and ready to go again. So there is quite a lot of excitement, if you like, and drama. And again, that replayability for that, rather than the more full throttle strategic component, perhaps, of a dynamic campaign. I think this is going to fit into a very interesting little niche. So I'm excited that they've done this. But again, we'll have to wait and see as time progresses, whether or not, and how much time, of course, is unknown, whether or not ED is able to embellish this even further. Question marks on that. Regardless, let me know what you think of this. Again, it's free, so we shouldn't be complaining too much, although I'm sure some people will. I'm not going to complain about a free module, especially if it lives up to my expectations of what it can do in game within the limitations of a Flaming Cliffs 2024 type aircraft.
He's coming towards you right now. Make 1 and 4, clear on your discretion. Have a safe flight. Make 1, make 4. Make 2, confirm you're going to go for another region. Optional to yourself. You got MiG 1 and 4, nose for about 2 miles in the 20s. Alright. Oh, don't worry. I don't think you'll live that long.
Well, let's turn to the MiG-29 helmet model, which, according to the team here, as an aspect of the MiG-29A, which is coming to DCS later this year, there is a new pilot model. As further advancements to new pilots are introduced for the F-16, the F-18, and the Apache, the MiG-29A pilot will feature precision modeling and animations, including uniforms, harnesses, patches, and other elements special attention is being made to the helmet, including the helmet-mounted sight. So I'm quite pleased to see this little development, and also pleased to see the announcement about the fact that this aircraft is coming soon. Hopefully, it's going to be on sale soon. And I don't mean necessarily a huge discount on it. There's usually the early access discount. And don't forget, on that basis too, remember, there is currently the Lunar New Year sale going on right now, which gives you an opportunity, as ED rightly points out, to expand your hangar fleet and enjoy fabulous campaigns at great prices in the DCS eShop and also on the DCS Steam Edition. Both are running till the 10th of February, which is really good news. So don't miss out if you are thinking about picking up some new aircraft, some maps, and some campaigns.
Make 3, let's target the Striker 090, 27, 21,000, make 3. Make 2. Target 030, 35, 40,000, make 2. Make 3, you'll land at 090, 25, 21,000, make 3 for cutoff. Let's roll out in setting 120.
Now, I was given a little bit of information while we were talking about Red 4 aircraft. Banjo from the Air Warfare Group gave me a little snippet of information from Cuban Ace, back on the 17th of last month. And the blurb goes as follow. Great news. I'm thrilled to announce that I've been given the green light to try and develop an FU57 AI for DCS. Tripped over my words there. It was the instead of the an. That confused me there. And starting today, or at least on that day, I'll begin working on the development of this AI with the goal of completing it and presenting it to Eagle Dynamics for evaluation and acceptance. To be clear, this will become official only if accepted by ED after evaluation. Please do not spread misinformation. In other words, it isn't ready to go yet, and the likelihood of it actually appearing in-game is going to come down to whether or not Eagle Dynamics thinks it's good enough, basically, or accepts it as a concept even in the game. So, lots of interesting thoughts there. And the first line is also a bit of a clue there too, because he said, although he's been given the green light, he's going to try and develop an Su-57. So again, this isn't something that has been produced. This is something of a concept and an attempt to see whether or not such an AI model can be pulled into the game. We have quite a few AI modules in the game already, or models in the game, I should say. We're also waiting, for example, the A6 from Heat Blur Simulations, which was meant to be, I think last summer was meant to come through, but they were pretty busy with other projects. So we shall see what this brings. It is an interesting... I don't think it's a counterpoint here or a, how would you say it? I don't think it's a peer-to-peer. It's not going to be a peer-to-peer challenge for the F-35. It's worthy, I think, of including in the game if we're going to take the step into the 21st century aviation world. And that world is evolving rapidly. We're seeing that. The use of AI wingmen, much more reliance on drones and drone technology. And not all of these drones are small. I mean, these drones we're talking about are quite large, piloted and unpiloted, I should say. So, there's lots of caveats here in terms of the value of having this in here. But again, I think the game is evolving in a productive way. I feel a lot more confident about the F-35 than I did several weeks ago when it was first announced. Certainly going down some interesting articles and the internet rabbit hole of learning about that particular aircraft. Remember, we've also had third-party developer India Fox Echo endorse ED's attempt to make the aircraft. So as an evolution, I think it's a step in the direction of the modern era, which I don't think is invalid. And old guys like me with plenty of grey whiskers, we grew up in a different era, but we've got lots of younger players coming through as well who have interest in what is being flown currently and may be interested in seeing those kinds of things in game and what that experience brings, even if it is not something that the rest of us perhaps adhere to as a canonized aircraft in DCS. So, it's a fluid environment, and one I think, I think it's a sensible one from a business decision, and I'm looking forward to seeing what comes from Cuban Ace's exploration of this, and of course, what ED's final guise for the F-35 looks like and how successful they can be with that particular project. Nonetheless, we've still got plenty of things to look forward to in the interim. Between then and now, we've got these World War II aircraft that we've talked about over the last several months, the LA-7, for example, from Octopus G. They're also working on another aircraft off the top of my head. I forget what it was now. Was it the Su-22 or something like that? I think it was. So there was some screenshots back in June that they showcased. We have the MiG-29, which we've already talked about. And again, I'm looking forward to seeing some more information about that and hopefully information about a sale date and possible release date. We have the big one that we talked about last week, which is the Eurofighter. And as I said before, we've got additional plans somewhere down the line for an A6, the A7. Love to see the F8 Crusader. So yeah, hopefully we see some more tangible examples of things that we have been talking about. And I often use that phrase, we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully we get to see and not have to do too much more waiting on some of these things. All right, well, that's going to do this week's DCS SITREP. This has been Prickly Hedgehog. I want to thank all of you for the support, the likes, the comments, and the subscriptions, which help the channel chug along just a little bit more in a very competitive environment in the YouTube algorithms and the flight sim aviation community. We'll see you next time. Like I said, cheers.
Copy that. Bandit is 100, 20 now, 21,000. Make 2, Bandit 030, 30, 40,000, make 2. Make 3, Bandit 100, 15 miles, 21,000, southwest now. Make 2, Bandit 030, 25, 40,000, make 2. Make 2 for cutoff, let's update our heading 005, make 2, Bandit 025, 24, 40,000. Make 3, Bandit version into 120, 10 miles.
Make 2, miles away, nose 20, 42,000.
Make 3, closer Bandit is passing your right, 2 o'clock, slightly low.
Make 3, copy this enemy's RTB, showtime till. Make 2 to nose for 10 miles, 42,000, north south.
Good up here. Make 2, got that, all on cover. We cover that visual over and 150. Make 3, let's update our heading 130, make 3.
Dead, MiG 2 and 3 are out for gas, showtime.
Make 3, make 2 is 100, 15, 38,000.